Alrighty, welcome back to the NHL Online versus Series, where I play a game with every team in NHL 24, let you know what I like about them, and just talk about the team and talk about the NHL in general. So on today's episode, we have the Florida Panthers, who are a very solid team. I'd say in real life, they're probably the best team I've played with. I've only played with the Red Wings and Oilers so far, and those two teams are currently on a downfall. Oilers more than the Red Wings, but the Florida Panthers are sitting at 4-3 on the date of this recording, and to me, they just play real solid hockey. They have good forwards who play offense and defense. You know, Tkachuk and Barkov, obviously, those guys are both pretty much power forwards. Barkov considered a top 3 defensive center in the NHL. Then you also got guys like Carter Verhaeghe and who else they got? I mean, he's really the only noticeable one. They have Anton Lundell, who's a young kid. I think he can be good. Not as good as Barkov, but I think he can definitely be a second, third line center for them down the line. But I think the main thing this team is going to run into is going to be defense and goaltending problems. I want to see how they can address those throughout the season if they do pop up. I think they have potential to have a very good defensive core with Ekblad, obviously, as their number one shutdown guy, power play guy. He does it all. But you also have guys like Gustav Forsling, who is he's a good player. He's going to get paid this season, or at the end of the season, whether it's by Florida or another team. I wouldn't be surprised if Florida wasn't doing the best if they looked to move him, because he's probably going to be asking for 6 to 7 million in free agency, and with a team that's already got money tied down to Barkov, Tkachuk, Ekblad, Bobrovsky taking up 10 mil cap space, which is just insane. Good goal. Oh, come on, don't do me like that. But yeah, they have so much money tied down to these guys that might be hard for them to pay him. And I bet if they traded him, they could get a first-round pick back, which I don't know how their prospect pool is looking right now, but I can't imagine that it would be a bad thing to get a first-round pick back. But they're also getting contributions from their depth guys. Look at Carter Verhaeghe, one of my favorite players in the NHL. This guy, all he does is seem to show up in the big moments when they need a goal. I mean, you look at, I think it was Game 7 versus Boston. He was the OT hero. Who would have picked Carter Verhaeghe to be the OT hero for the Florida Panthers? And throughout that playoff run, he had really big goals for them, big momentum shifting goals. And I think he's just a solid player. Definitely a top 6 guy, no question about it. You got other depth guys like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who's been playing really good on, I think he's on their power play. But even if he's not, he's been playing very solid for them, which the season he had in Vancouver last season, you know, they brought him in, paid him all that money, and it just wasn't up to their standards. I don't know if they traded him or if Florida just signed him, but whatever they did, it was a good pickup for him. But speaking of trades, the more time that goes by, I realize how good the trade for Matthew Tkachuk was for the Panthers. I mean, I don't want to say they fleeced the Flames, because the Flames got 2 good players. I think Uyghur is right now, I would say he's definitely a better acquisition than Huberdeau, because Huberdeau has been insanely disappointing. But, I mean, Tkachuk has been nothing but a top 10 player in the NHL for Florida, while the Flames, look at just their production overall, and Tkachuk and Gaudreau were a big part of that. I think they brought in Uyghur and Huberdeau to kind of fill those needs, and they just haven't. They have drastically underperformed. It looks like they're not going to make the playoffs again, which for that team, I think they have a solid team. They should be making the playoffs. I don't know whether it's coaching. They just brought in a new coach because Daryl Sutter was not getting the job done. Nice goal. And yeah, Huberdeau has just been super disappointing. I've drafted him in fantasy hockey the last 2 years, and I don't know why I drafted him again this year. I thought maybe he could have a bounce back, but I've been very disappointed so far. I think I might have even dropped him for someone. So that just kind of tells you everything you need to know about Huberdeau's production. But another depth guy I didn't touch on was Evan Rodriguez. He was good on... Where did he really break out? He really broke out for the Penguins. And then he went on to Colorado. Was really good there. I think people wanted a little more, but he was trying to fill Kadri's shoes. And Kadri was coming off a career year. I think he made the All-Star game, which who would have predicted that? All right. And it's hard to replace that production, but I thought he was good. He was always showing up in the highlights. I don't stay up till 10 o'clock because I'm on the East Coast to watch all those Avs games, but every time I did, he was definitely one of the bright spots behind their big stars. And he's playing great for the Florida Panthers. He really is. This guy, you can play him on the power play. I don't think he does any penalty killing work. I probably wouldn't put him there just because of how good he is on the power play. You want that guy fresh. He's more of a point getter than a defender. But, yeah, I've been really impressed with Florida so far. Sadly, they're in my Red Wings division, and they always seem to crush us. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they're just bad enough to where the Red Wings finish above them. I think both of them are going to be fighting for the same wild card spot at the end of the season. So, not preying on their downfall, but definitely not actively rooting for them. But how about this start? We're off to a hot start. Usually don't get off to hot starts in this. At least the past 2 games I've played, we have not gotten off to hot starts. So that's about all I have to talk about the Florida Panthers. They're just a good team. There's not much to say about them other than they just have to keep doing what they're doing. And yeah, they just got to, if they run into problems, I want to see how they fix them. And yeah, but another thing I wanted to talk about was some of the surprising teams so far in the NHL. I think the first 2 we have to start with are the Philadelphia Flyers and the Montreal Canadiens. I'll start with the Canadiens because they just came off a win. No, there was a shootout. No, yeah, it was a shootout win against the Jets, and the Jets are a good team. Jets are definitely solid. But Martin St. Louis got them boys playing. I thought as a player he was so smart because he's an undersized winger who produced everywhere he went, especially when he got older. I know he played into maybe his not late 30s, but I know he definitely played well into his 30s. And for an undersized guy to play even into his early 30s, that's impressive, with how physically demanding the NHL is. That was lucky. You know, so I think that was a great hire for Montreal. And even if he didn't pan out, they had a bunch of young players. Like, they could have brought in another guy if he wasn't working. I think at worst he would have been a placeholder, and at best, like, he's definitely a coach that can lead you to the playoffs. And that's where they are. They're 5-2-1, which I don't think anyone saw that coming early in the season. So we got to see how they progress, because I think last season they started off hot too and ended up getting the 4th or 5th pick. So we got to see what they do the rest of the season, but I think they're. I don't think they're a sneaky playoff team, but I think they're well improved from the last couple of years where they've finished bottom 10 in the NHL. You know, they had the first overall pick 2 years ago, picked Slavkovsky, which I thought they messed up so bad not taking Shane Wright, and Shane Wright's not even playing in the NHL this season, which I'll talk about that when I play with Seattle, because I think that's on purpose. I don't think that's necessarily because of him. I think it is a little bit, but I have a speculation about that. And then, but yeah, I've been very impressed with the Montreal Canadiens. It's not even their top guys either. It's, Caulfield and Suzuki. They're having good seasons. I don't think they've been world beaters. Like, that's why they're winning all these games, So, glad to see that for them. Hockey's better when the Canadian teams, saying this as an American, by the way, hockey is better when teams like Toronto and Montreal are playing good. So, yeah, very, very happy for them. Next team I want to talk about is the Philadelphia Flyers. Philadelphia Flyers were right up there with San Jose and Chicago for me for the worst 3 teams in the NHL, I thought. I know they had injuries last year, but even with injuries, how bad they were at points in the season, like, it was really disappointing. But they've really bounced back. Their top guys that were injured last year, Sean Couturier, what's that? Cam Atkinson. Those guys are coming back this year, and they're playing hard. They're playing like top guys on an NHL team, especially Sean Couturier. The team feeds off of Couturier. He's like Barkov in a lot of aspects. Super defensive, but he can also join the rush, play on the power play. He can do all those things. I remember maybe 2-3 years ago, this guy was being compared to Patrice Bergeron when talking about the Selke Trophy. Like, that's the skill level of Couturier, and I'm really glad to see him back, especially for Philadelphia. I know those fans had to have been hurting the last couple of years with how bad they've been, coming off of having Giroux and Voracek and being like, I wouldn't say really good, but I would say they were above average for a lot of years, and then just to plummet all the way down, it's gotta be tough. And I think this year they got probably the biggest steal of the draft. I don't know, we'll have to see about Axel Sandin Palika. Surprised this guy hasn't quit yet. Got to see what Axel Sandin Palika turns into, because he's being compared to Erik Karlsson right now, which would be the biggest steal, But Michkov was right up there with the top players in the draft, considered. This guy's a can't-miss prospect, and he falls all the way to 5 or 6 wherever the Flyers were playing. So, love to see that for him. Or love to see that for the Flyers, rather, because I think they definitely need a boost, because Atkinson and Couturier and a lot of their better guys are just not, like, they're getting older. They're not going to be there forever, so got to bring in new, exciting prospects, and I think Michkov is definitely one of the most exciting prospects in all of NHL. But yeah, those are really 2 teams that I did not see coming, kind of came out of nowhere, and are right at the top of the NHL, standings-wise, and think they're playing good hockey. So, those are the talking points I had set for today. We absolutely rolled this guy. 2 shots, not even a minute at time on attack. Surprised he didn't quit on the first pause. But that'll do it for me. I will see you guys in the next one.